So in this session, we're being exposed to a few new models of social entrepreneurship. You've heard one already. Maybe we should just go right down the path here.
Talim India turned out to be a partner to various government states today, various private universities, public universities, as well as schools, on how we build in capacity in those institutions in order to cater to the long-term sustainability in those enterprises, whether government or private. So from what we thought is a social outcome that we can give, it has turned out to be a full-fledged engine which is creating money on its own and getting reinvested back in doing R&D on what more we can do. And it's 4 years now, but we realize there's so much more to do. That today we have actually got into an entrepreneurship development of trying to create more such enterprises like Talim India so that the bigger need of society can be catered. From the need of the clients to hardcore social enterprise is what we are today.
This is a family trust in Delhi. So they started running a school long ago. So not as bad as a government school in India would be, but not even as good as a good public school in India, for example. Did that for long. And about 9 years ago, they thought of doing a little more about adult literacy also, because that's also one of the biggest challenges in India. Perhaps right from independence, we have been working, the government has been working on this, but has not been very fruitful. And then there is a saying, there is a well and there is a horse. So here is the well, and there is horse at that end, and the horse must come and drink water. This is how they did. We have a school. After school is over, we have our computer lab also. They got a package, computer-based literacy package from TCS. Most of you perhaps would know TCS name. And so after school, our teachers or our students would teach. Now illiterate people from the nearby areas, please come and get benefited from this. And this is linked to that changing the strategy. This didn't work. So they thought again, now let's take well to the horse now. So we need to go to the slums where we find these illiterate people. One of the smart people there, a lady or a gentleman, most likely lady, they changed their focus also, that their focus would be on ladies, illiterate ladies. One of the smart ones, in her house, a PC installed, software implemented, and that lady trained. And that training is basic minimum training that one can play with the keys on the keyboard. Will teach. And the time would be when, not after the school, because even that strategy didn't work. So the time would be when the ladies are free, when the kids have gone to the school, maybe 11 o'clock, for example. And that model worked very well. Today they are running about 70 centers in NCR, where about 30 ladies benefit at each center. So that's an example that I wanted to share, where strategy was changed and then it worked very well.
When I came into, got my qualifications and came into practice, that I had the opportunity of studying out of a Catholic school in Delhi, Xavier's, a Protestant medical school in Ludhiana called Christian Medical College, a Muslim university in Aligarh for my master's, and then I went to the Masania Infirmary for a short fellowship and came back to the most fabulous hospital you can work in, which is called the Arvind Eye Hospital, Madurai. So that gave me a very wide spectrum of what you could do in eye care. And so I and my wife is also an ophthalmologist. My sons are also ophthalmologists. So I said to her when we came into practice in 1990 that let's do something where we can excel in our profession and do community work also. So the idea of starting an NGO was formed, and the name was given by my teacher in Madurai. So it's called the Arunodaya, which means the rising of the sun, which gives the first rays of the light. And right when I was doing my fellowship, I met Jordan then in Madurai, and we met again when he came for VisionSpring to Delhi after so many years, 1984 and 2012 or 11. So the idea came up that we would do both the things together. It was a little challenging because you were setting up your practice in South Delhi, you were consultants to Apollo Hospital, and you were doing an NGO work. And we saw our first patient under a tree in Badalpur. And that grew from 1990 to cover 1.2 million patients. And that has been able to give them glasses, cataract surgery, treatment. And it's reached a level now where we have a state-of-the-art eye hospital just down the road on the Golf Course Road in Gurgaon. and we treat around 5,000 patients a month. And we also do our practice as the head of the Medicity and Apollo Hospital. So we kept our NGO side on the side, and we didn't take a single penny from the NGO, but invested our funds, and also we were able to generate some friends to put it with us. And that has given us a lot of satisfaction that we've been on the cutting edge in our profession, and we've also been able to provide community services more by, I would say, trial and error than by any specific business strategy. But now we are scaling up to a level where we are looking at scaling up as social entrepreneurs and seeing what will survive. And we're launching a major project now in Gurgaon, in the new Gurgaon township near Manesa, where we hope to come up with the 80,000 square feet facility, which would be self-sustaining in eye care and other fields, where the paying and the non-paying could work together, could be seen together under one roof with quality as the benchmark. Thank you.
Arun, let me just ask a question. You're working in Jharkhand, is that it? Jharkhand. And this is an area that sounds like you have traditional societies, you have severe, extreme poverty, very little infrastructure. It sounds like the kind of environment where you would traditionally think that charity would need to be deployed. Tell us a little bit about your whether or not what you do is considered charitable, or do you think of it more as social entrepreneurial? Share with us your impressions of how you would characterize what you do and the approach that you take.
Yes, as a journalist, I asked this question to these four gentlemen who started this organization. And they said that in the first 3 years that they spent there without returning to their homes, the first 3 years they spent there learning, living with the tribals and learning from them and teaching them whatever it was. They said, instead of we giving them anything, it is like we are learning from them how to live the life. So, of course, they are monetarily poor, but in all other terms, they are far, maybe, in many of these parameters, they are far ahead than us. They have compassion, they have love, they have values for the family and a whole lot of things. So, the idea of charity was lost in the first 3 years itself. It was like learning from them and giving them what we know better. So, charity is never the idea. We are not doing charity. Of course, we are giving a lot of money, a lot of facilities to the poor people, but we would not consider that charity. What we would consider, what we should call it, it is like a relationship. You give them money, they give you they give you a lot of things. We are able to mobilize 1 lakh people, 100,000 people at any given location within Jharkhand for our functions. No other political party can command that kind of thing. And we are not a political party. And our 100,000 people who come for different functions, they are highly disciplined. They come from each and every village, block, and district of the state. We feed them, we give them meals, 2-3 meals, in a very disciplined manner. And we also give them a tiffin box or whatever called the food while they are returning home. Idea is that we are managing so many people in a very disciplined, systematic manner. And this is not without the cooperation of the people. Because we are only 4 people, start doing this, running this organization. So people have cooperated, they have understood that we have come with a purpose, and our purpose is not wrong. Our intentions are not wrong. We mean business, we mean good things there. And they have understood that, they have imbibed the values that we want to offer, and it is no way a charity. It is a cooperation between the community and we people who are trying to help them. We are the kind of change agent, if you call it. But by now, the organization has become very big. A lot of money is coming and going. So it is more of a social enterprise, though we haven't really formally given this name to this whole operation. It is more of a social enterprise than charity, or what you call non-voluntary organization, NGO. It is more of cooperation between community and the change maker.
Thank you. And Jay Prakash, you have a for-profit social business, and I know it's very common when you have that structure, for there to be some inherent tension between making sure you reach your bottom line in terms of financial bottom line, but also to make sure that you don't drift away from your mission. Can you talk to us about any tensions that you have come across in trying to balance the bottom line financially with the impact bottom line?
From the day one, when we started this initiative, we always wanted to ensure that what we follow is a triple bottom line. We follow a model that we seen, and it's called as a triple P, which is people, planet, and profit. Right? We believe any organization, not just Talim India, that we're running, any organization, in order to be long-term sustainable, has to follow triple bottom line now. Single bottom line would not work. So that was the intention from the day one, and we started working on this. Yes, we faced challenges where we worked with various universities. We worked with government institutions and schools. We had a good start, but when we started expanding, we realized that not everybody has the right intention. The people we were supporting, going and trying to develop skills or build capacity, were purely commercial in nature. They were taking our services, but what they were trying to do from that is just for the marketing purpose, really do not want to invest too much on taking to the next level. And as much as while we were very clear that we would be after some time self-sustainable, that HR Consulting would not continue to support it always, we lost a lot of money on the way, where people took our services, departments took our services and never paid for it. So yes, there was a lot of tensions around whether when we're trying to work in a social enterprise where we believe the cost is much bigger and money would surely come in the long way, there are people who do not understand the need for it, and then you would lose the product or the service you're giving. So we decided from that we will work in a specific sector of people that we choose to work with, where we believe who have the same intentions, and we decided to say no to working with people that we believe do not have the right intentions. We rather invest in people who do not have money or have less money, but have the right intentions, and then surely when they make money and we make money down the line. Right, so that was one thing that we focused on. Other thing that we focused on, which in previous discussions had come about government support. Now we believe the government has a lot of money, right? And that's what we figured out, especially in area of education. There are many universities in India who get crores of grants to skill their teachers and the students, and that goes unutilized. So then we realized, why not we go and approach these institutions for them to invest this, while we sustain from that money, but we invest somewhere else who doesn't have the money to pay, and then we give them either subsidized or no rate. Like we started supporting Rotary International, and one project we did, we trained even 20 people for 3 months at 300 rupees for 3 months course, which we entirely donated back to Rotary International. These are people from very underprivileged background. And in less than 2 months, all of them were highly employed, and then 2 of them became an entrepreneur based on the intervention that we did. So we started utilizing the government funds somewhere to give back to other areas where the funds are not available. So that's how we worked out. A lot of tensions initially where we were losing more money, but we surely figured out a way of making some money and then invest in other areas. So working with the right partners was the key.
I believe we all know a 2%ers club. 2% of the company's profit should go back to society. India recently passed an act also, which personally I do not like. In my personal capacity, a decision taken about 10 years ago, me and my wife, about 1 month's salary should go back to society. And in different ways, different channels, I support some charities. At the same time, it's not only money to be donated, it has to be effort also. So we must contribute effort as well. So Sundays, first half, go back to the society work. We started about 10 years ago. We teach nearby underprivileged areas English. Students coming from those areas, we teach English. Goes up to 200 now, and there were times when we were struggling for 2 also. We started with a hall of a temple. So those people from temple authorities allowed us to use it for free. We wouldn't charge anything for this, and we don't charge even today anything for this. And then we struggled. We thought we got disheartened also at one point in time that there were only 2 or 3 or 4 students coming forward to benefit from that. But we decided that as long as there would be even one, we would continue. There were times we touched 60 in that temple, then some construction started in the temple. So I'm sharing those challenges also that came in between, and we had to be out of that place. For 6 months, we sat in a park on Sundays. It was heat also, it was rain also, and it was perhaps cold as well. Because students were willing. We thought that we would stop for 6 months till the time construction would be over. But students were willing, and then we said, okay, we would also continue. Now, for last 2 years, we go to a school. Once again, the school authorities have agreed. They provide us 5 rooms, and in those 5 rooms, we teach those kids. Challenge is that this age group, starting from 1st class to 12th class, and their standard also is different. Difficult to believe, but that's a fact that we have seen, that students coming up to from 6th or 7th class sometimes can't read ABCD, can't read cat, bat, rat. While there is another student from 2nd, 3rd class who knows tenses also, for example. So those are the challenges that we keep seeing, but we are committed. We provide some stationery to them. Also, we have not been very regular, but in last 3 years, twice this eye checkup camp also has been arranged for them. Again, we talked to someone, an ophthalmologist nearby area, and a free checkup. While I was saying that I would pay to you, and I would pay to you for their glasses also, but once that, again, that person didn't charge anything. So twice it has been done. We are attempting this year to get it done once again. So this is how it continues. What I mean to say is where there is will, there is always a way out.
Related to Daman's comments, Dr. Sethi, you have a busy, successful ophthalmologic practice. It would have been certainly easy for you to focus on that and put 110% of your effort and your wife's effort into that. Tell us a little bit about the personal reasons and the personal philosophies of why you chose to put a significant amount of your professional and personal effort into serving underserved populations with your skills.
There were 2 reasons for it, basically. One was, of course, professionally. Let's start professionally. It's very challenging to work with the underprivileged people. Your most difficult cases, your most complicated cases, your most challenging cases which you'll operate come from that segment. Those who do private practice of the elites are doing the same thing which in the same pattern every day, and that can burn you out. It's like an actor who does the same kind of roles in the movies and doesn't get seen after a few years. That's one. On the social level, it's very satisfying when you operate in somebody who's needy, you restore sight. Restoration of sight leads to economic empowerment of the family, and economic empowerment of the family would lead to them being able to earn a living, a decent living. So that has a second charm of it. The third part of it is that you actually use your time usefully. It keeps you busy from morning to evening, so there are less opportunities to spend the money you earn, so you tend to accumulate more. And the fourth thing is, it's so satisfying because it's always fascinated me. I live in a colony where my immediate neighbor is a very senior minister called Kapil Sibal. My other neighbor is an industrialist. And they all are having fancy cars and they live very high-style lifestyles. And I've always found this very challenging. Why would somebody spend his entire life in accumulating wealth beyond a point when you don't need it, when you just accumulate for the sake of accumulation? That concept has fascinated me. Because you need a certain amount for yourself, for your pleasures, for your hobbies. Beyond that, you're actually working for something which is of no meaning. You see, and that is where I think you said capitalism is not the answer. That is where I think a bit of social capitalism comes in, and you want to do something for the community. Because ultimately, in life, you get much more satisfaction by doing something for others in a very unselfish way than you would get in doing it in a very conniving way, like a politician does. And that's why they say politics is the last refuge of the scoundrels everywhere in the world. But apart from that, the other thing which I would like to bring out is that if you actually get into doing helping others, it also makes your life more comfortable, in the sense that your demands become less, you see the world in a different perspective, you see it in a way that you also bring those ethos back to your children. You see that you don't have families that break up over wealth, you don't fight over petty issues, and a lot of harmony comes in. And a lot of this also I saw because I worked very closely with two different groups of people, which is a coincidence. One is the Mormon community of the United States, and I happen to travel to Salt Lake City very often, and I see the kind of ethos with which those families live, how at the beginning of their career they go as elders, and how at the end of the career they go as the head of the missions. And right now we're working very closely with Nick Romney, who heads the Deseret Foundation in the US, who was a Republican candidate, and how he has moved away to give his time to, these kind of efforts, and is traveling to India incognito and working with the NGO sector. So it gives you a lot of interesting opportunities to meet people. I've recently had the opportunity of meeting the Prime Minister of Ireland, who donated a van to us. Now, where would I as a doctor need to interact with such a person at that level? It was just the NGO work. So it's very interesting, it's very challenging, the kind of things that we have come up with, we were recently flown to South Africa to operate. And I must share this experience, it was very fascinating. We entered South Africa last October to Durban, and we had the Rotary had invited us, and there was a lot of press at Durban airport when we landed, and since it was me, my wife, and my son, and we were all Sethis, so they presumed that Sethis in Hindi meant ophthalmologists. It's interesting how people's mind works. They couldn't figure out a team of 3 ophthalmologists coming from the same family. So we went there, and they drove us about 180 kilometers. This was organized by Kirti. And we went there, we drove 180 kilometers, and we were taken to this town, a beautiful town called Scarsdale. It was a deep-sea fishing resort. You can imagine the kind of stuff we were into. But we never got the time to put our finger into sea, because they would pick us up at 7 in the morning and take us to the hospital, which is called the Crooks Hospital. I couldn't understand why would they name a hospital Crooks Hospital. And this hospital was used during the apartheid for treating the higher elegant society of South Africa. And the first day when we operated, we found most of the patients were Afrikaners, they were whites. And they were all people who spoke perfect English, and they were people who were educated. And I was trying to figure out, why would they come to a free eye cam surgery, getting operated by a team of doctors in a new environment whom they never heard of, they probably never see. Because I take a lot of, I take a lot of pride in the fact that these people have the courage to do that. How many of us would do that? To allow ourselves to offer our body to be touched by somebody who doesn't have a brand value, who's not been referred to us, or our friends haven't talked about him. It's very scary to go to a new doctor and ask him to do something on you. So that sort of a thing was there. And the second day was more interesting. We had only we had only Africans, the blacks. And I said, how is it? One day we have the whites, next day we have the blacks, and the third day we had only the Indian population, the Naidus, coming in. And we did about 280 surgeries, for them. And then I asked Musa, who's running the show, and he said the first day was a Rotary Club. They have members of whites. The next day was the Lions Club. They work in that particular area with the blacks. And the third day was the Satyasai group, and they work with the Indian community in that area. So that's how 3 organizations pooled in the resources, and that's how we got the patients, and that's how we operated. Now this kind of an opportunity comes only when you do NGO work and you do something good for others, and it's appreciated. It doesn't come in your routine life, you just stick to your normal routine.
Thank you for all those comments. We have about 1 more hour. I just wanted to thank our panelists for sharing with you their experiences and their perspectives on this area. And we're going to spend the next hour kind of breaking up into groups and putting some of the lessons that we learned into practice. What I thought was we would have, as I was mentioning earlier, we've got 8 tables here. So if you're not near a table, kind of assign yourself a table. And what we'll hope to do is 2 tables will take on a particular topic. And what we're going to talk about is, it's going to be basically a case study, sort of like we talked through the VisionSpring case study, where we had to make a bunch of decisions. We had to make a decision of, did we want to structure as a charity, as a nonprofit social business, or a for-profit business? So I'd like 2 tables, maybe this table and that table, to sort of take on the structure issue. And then I'll talk about what product we're going to be selling. There's another, we had other conversations about, okay, so you chosen a structure, but you also need something to sell. You need a product or a service to sell.